All right, little different scene here. For one thing, I am in Passaic, New Jersey. Had to make a quick trip back home. Also, I am out on the road here, and thirdly, it is freezing cold. It is in the 20s with the wind chill probably around 15 Fahrenheit. But this trip is giving me a chance to knock out some road miles in this pretty wild R.A.D UFO shoe. Yes, I'm talking about the Rally Against Destruction ultimate flying object here. I did bring some trail shoes with me on this trip for testing, but trail access is a little bit hard to come by over here. Have to fight that parkway traffic. We'll see how motivated I am to do that. Luckily, this UFO model here is well equipped to rack up some road asphalt, pavement, concrete miles. That SUPEFOAM midsole, not SUPERFOAM, SUPEFOAM is really something wild to feel on your feet. I mean, I've had a lot of shoes, mainly trail shoes, road shoes as well, super shoes for the marathon, things like that. But I don't think I've quite had a feeling like the feeling you get when you step into this shoe. We are talking dual layer PEBA here, 42, 36 millimeter stack. Talk about marshmallowy softness. But we're gonna talk about responsiveness later. It is just an incredible juxtaposition when you think about what the shoe feels like when you slip it on for the first time, what you think you might expect out on the run, and then you get out there and then feel that ride. It is all about the SUPEFOAM here, all about the midsole, all about that dual layer PEBA. Got a softer layer closer to the foot, firmer layer down closer to the ground for response and reactiveness. Holy cow, when you first put the shoe on, just an incredible feeling underneath your feet. My first impression was, how is this shoe possibly gonna work? I have never put my feet in a shoe quite this soft with quite this unique of a feel underfoot. I was honestly, as a primarily trail runner, concerned a bit about, wow, this is really soft. Like, how stable can this possibly be? Even on the roads, is this gonna really work my feet, work my ankles? Woo, it's really windy here. Again, those are first impressions, but those were soundly put to bed shortly into my first test run in these. But before I get into that first test run, the ride, the feel, geometry, all that, I will mention 9.4 ounces, 266 grams in my size US 10. I first got my feet into these shoes over at TRE in San Antonio. Luckily, I was able to try on US 9.5 and US 10, and 9.5, my true to size, just felt a little touch squeezy. I probably could get away with it maybe with a very thin sock, but the shoe does have that road shoe taper up front. Also that big, huge, I should say, toe sweep, kind of pushing the toes a little bit together at the front of the toe box. That's something you have to account for depending on your foot shape. It's just a little narrow up front there. I would say if you're a road runner and you're used to that kind of thing, it might not be an issue at true to size. The material is quite soft and stretchy. It's not like a rigid trail shoe type of material that I'm testing most of the time, where that would really be restrictive at the front of the toes. But yeah, it is a little narrow up there, and I am happy going up a half size here, US 10. The rest of the upper is very compliant. The upper material itself, well padded. The tongue especially, great tongue there. The upper part has this really thick layer of foam so you can cinch down the top. Padding along the interior of the ankles and heels and Achilles, really soft, holds the foot well. No complaints anywhere all around with the upper. Now, as far as foot shape in the rest of the toe box, I find forefoot width really good. It's actually quite wide, especially given the fact that you do have quite a significant taper up at the front, as I said. but I think that is a good way to go, especially with this dual layer, super soft PEBA foam here. If you were to kind of squeeze that fit at the sake, if you were to squeeze that fit at the forefoot, I just don't think that would give you enough level of control over this really soft foam underfoot. Having it be wide as it is really just gives you that level of control. Your foot kind of spreads out even with that softness, and you're able to kind of feel out the foam a little bit with your foot, as opposed to being really pinpoint narrow at the ball of the foot. I find that can be a situation with a softer foam where it just feels like you're really riding high, riding tall, and very unstable. Coming to the ride here, they have a geometry worked out here and an underfoot platform that just works. It gives it that cruisy, super feel. I think they had a buzzword in their book, anti-gravity, something along those lines. Everything works together to give it that feel where you feel like you can just effortlessly glide here. The reduction of impact, or at least the feeling of the reduction of impact here on the run, is just something to feel. The geometry, you want to land right there on that middle of the shoe, let it work for you, let that foam absorb the impact. Doesn't really bottom out at all, I'm feeling, on the run. It just smoothly rolls into that forward rocker, up into that, of course, narrow toe up front, but it just cruises out here. Based on my first impression, or I should say again, juxtaposed against my first impression, I just thought the shoe would be a lot more squishy, a lot less responsiveness. I thought I'd have to fight the foam a bit on the run. I also thought it would be hurting my ankles. I thought I would have foot pain in this shoe for sure, but none of that at all. Take a look at the upper here. If you're new to the channel, perhaps found this as a road runner, I primarily do this on my trail runs, all reviews on the run, and I'll typically stop and do a close-up somewhere along the way. As I was saying up front, this taper, I find it's a little bit tight up here. Again, look at how soft the material is. It doesn't really squeeze my toes at all. I did go a half size up here, so I'm at a US 10. My true to size is typically a 9.5. I've got probably 3/4 thumbs width, but it's 3/4 thumbs width with a narrow space up front, not 3/4 thumbs width with a wide space at the front of the toe box. So keep that in mind when you're sizing the shoe. If you have a narrow foot, the shoe does have a bit of a narrow lace throat. You could see, not as bad as, for example, craft shoes were really problematic previously, not in their recent models. Before this, they would have a lace throat that was so narrow that these would be touching each other. Not quite to that level here, but if you do have a very narrow foot, that is something to consider, not going that half size up, going true to size, just due to the narrowness here. You want to be able to keep some tension here with your laces, and I'm just about okay with that, no problem. Look at this tongue here, very soft, huge pad here. I love this. I would love to see this in more trail shoes. This is a 42-36 stack here at 9.4 ounces, so you're not giving up a lot of weight. Of course, road shoes have different elements than trail shoes, so still, this kind of tongue here, it just takes one factor out of the equation. If you did feel like this shoe was too soft underfoot, you got that SUPEFOAM here. If you did feel like, or were concerned about this dual layer PEBA being too soft underfoot, and you wanted to, say, wrench down the laces, especially at the upper ankle here, top lace row, you could do that, because you're not going to feel any bite at all through this really well padded tongue. It's just very comfortable here. Something that works well for the ride, something I noticed and I thought about a lot even on my first run, I was talking about how stable this shoe felt on the run. Even though it's so soft, the feeling is just incredibly soft, but on the run, it feels very stable. I don't feel any wobble that I would just instinctively think that I would get from a shoe this soft. And I was kind of looking at it. It feels like the point, you know, the shoe flares out a lot. I mean, look at how much flare out you have on the sides of the shoe, especially at the heel. If you're a heel striker, oh wow, and you really like to heel strike, this is the shoe for you. But even as a midfoot, forefoot striker, there's a ton under there. I would say if you're too far forward, that will be the thinnest point, so you won't take full advantage of the foam there. But as I was saying, it's a wide platform here, and I feel like this point of width is a little bit further back. So when I'm landing on my midfoot landings there, a lot of shoes, I feel like they just have that, you know, flare outs, that point of contact. They're a little more even across the ball of the foot from here to here. You have a setup here where it seems, this could be millimeters or just could be my perception, but it seems like this is shifted a little further back. So as I land, it really adds a lot of stability. Even as I'm standing in it, when I thought about this on my first run, I went back home, I tested it out, and I was kind of feeling out. The shoe does not want to roll on me. I'm trying to like articulate my ankle on the ground here, and it does not want to roll. Like this section right here is really holding up in such a way that it's enough on ground contact to, of course, keep you from rolling, but in this shoe, I would say you'll be running quicker to direct that force forward. And then you have this section flare out here is a little bit offset to the front. So the geometry of that setup just takes your foot straight into that rocker and just keeps that soft foam moving. Got mostly a flat surface here, but you could see up front, look how that rocker is. Give it a little push here. Even in the heel bevel here is quite high, although I'm not really, especially with the lack of descents, this is something I would pay attention to more in my trail runs, but on road runs, I'm not running down that steep where that's really coming into play with my foot strike. But up front, definitely SUPEFOAM there. Look how that rocker works. Again, feel like the landing right there on that lateral edge, especially if you're a midfoot lander, you're landing squarely here or even a little bit up on the forefoot. This bump out here really works to stabilize your foot landings and direct you going forward. Take a look around this upper here. Very soft. Even this is well padded. Look at the padding along the interior here. Super thick, super tall. Take a quick look at the outsole while I'm at it. Wild design here. This is also some type of SUPEFOAM here, and you can see the thickness on this here. So on top of this, you can see the layers of the PEBA foam here. There's a little line right here, softer layer here, and the firmer layer below. And then you have this supercritical, not sure what this is exactly, but you could also see that's quite a bit thick. So you're gonna get that direct underfoot feeling of softness on top of the midsole itself. Pretty rad here. Now I am sold on this R.A.D UFO as a super trainer, daily trainer in fact. Love to have this type of soft and at the same time responsive feel out on the roads. Perhaps the only problem you might have with this one is actually how good it feels. I just flew cross country, legs are feeling a little wonky, but I'm running pretty quick out here today, kind of at the higher end of my zone 2 pace range, and it's just feeling really smooth on the run. And that's something I felt in my couple of previous test runs earlier this week. It's almost a little bit hard to slow the shoe down, and I'm not saying that in a kind of sense to be funny or anything like that. It's just the geometry of it. It kind of wants you to go fast. As I said, that PEBA really does feel very responsive. It's a quick shoe, and the softness of it cushions the ride, so you feel like you have no problem impact-wise picking up the pace. And then you've got the geometry of the shoe, that ride, that roll up front, that I think is very well executed, well designed, well integrated with the midsole of the shoe. It really does keep you moving forward, or at least having the sensation, I don't know, rad feeling, happy feeling, whatever it is. I feel like fun when I'm running in the shoe, which is, you know, that's worth the price of admission most of the time. Now, you've heard me say the term Super Trainer. There is no plate in this shoe, which is notable. I think a lot of Super Trainers tend to indicate that there'll be some type of plate, not necessarily carbon fiber, maybe a plasticky nylon plate, something like that, but got none of that here. Purely dependent on the PEBA foam and the ride geometry to give you that super or super feel. This is clearly a shoe that can work for, I think, daily training. As long as you're okay with going a little fast, we'll see over the course of my test running if I could slow the shoe down a bit. Maybe, I don't know, sometimes you want to go out and don't want to run that fast. Maybe this is just not the shoe for that, or maybe it is, we'll see. Also, I think steady state endurance runs, tempo type of efforts, this shoe would be fantastic for that. Maybe speed workouts, I'll have to see. I don't know yet. I kind of want more feel, even though, you know, you do tend to do workouts these days in pure full-on super shoes. I don't know, sometimes for those shorter efforts, you want a little bit more feel underfoot. Maybe that softness just can give you the sensation of not putting enough power into the ground in those real high effort workouts, but we'll see. Thank you for tuning in once again to Humble Running. If you're new to the channel, perhaps found this as a road runner, I do all of my reviews on the run, so this is nothing out of the ordinary. I do have some more road shoes actually for testing in 2026, so maybe I will be out here a little bit more. Maybe you'll see some road comparisons on the way, who knows? That means there's probably more to come with the R.A.D UFO here. Maybe I have some ideas about how R.A.D might make this into a really cool trail shoe. This is not a trail shoe, by the way. Disclaimer, they mentioned that, I think, in the booklet or on the website. PEBA foam there, unprotected, not gonna be as durable, so don't try that at home, but maybe I'll put out a little kind of ideas for R.A.D to take hold potentially in the future for a SUPEFOAMED trail shoe. Have a good one. I will see you out there on the trails or maybe on the roads.